I spent years standing right next to her, listening to her talk about another man, telling myself that being just a friend was enough. Then one night, after a fight that changed everything, she took my hand, and suddenly nothing felt safe or simple anymore. What followed forced both of us to face the truth we'd been avoiding for years. This isn't a story about timing. It's about finally seeing what was there all along. My name is Tom. I'm 30 years old. I live in a small apartment above my own electronics store in a quiet part of town. I sell phones, laptops, repair broken screens, replace batteries, and explain the same things to the same customers every day. It's not a dream job, but it's mine. I built it myself, step by step. I open at 9, close at 7, and most evenings I lock the door, turn off the lights, and go upstairs alone. Viola has been part of my life for years. She's 29, a hairdresser, works 2 streets away. We met when her hairdryer broke and she walked into my shop looking stressed and late for work. I fixed it in 10 minutes. She smiled, thanked me, and came back the next week just to say hi. After that, she kept coming back, sometimes with broken things, sometimes with nothing at all. From the beginning, she made it clear she had a boyfriend. I never asked for details, but she told me anyway. How long they'd been together. How tired she was of explaining herself. How he never listened. I stood behind the counter, nodding, pretending I was just a good listener. She always laughed and said the same thing at the end. "You're such a good friend, Tom." That word followed me everywhere. She called me when she had a bad day at work. She texted when she fought with him. She showed me pictures of new haircuts she was proud of. I helped her move apartments. I fixed her old phone for free. I watched her check her messages every 5 minutes, waiting for him to reply. I never crossed the line. Not once. I told myself that being close was better than being nothing. That one day, maybe, she'd see me differently. Or maybe she wouldn't. Either way, I stayed. Some nights, after closing the shop, I sat upstairs and listened to the street noise below, replaying her voice in my head. The way she trusted me. The way she leaned on me without even noticing. Loving her quietly became part of my routine, like opening the store every morning. One evening, she came by just before closing. She didn't smile this time. Her eyes were red. She sat on the stool near the counter and didn't say anything for a long moment. "He forgot again," she finally said. "My birthday dinner. He just didn't show up." I didn't know what to say, so I did what I always did. I listened. She talked for almost an hour. About feeling invisible. About being tired of asking for the bare minimum. About wondering why she always ended up feeling alone even when she wasn't supposed to be. At the end, she wiped her face, forced a small smile, and looked at me. "I don't know what I'd do without you, Tom. You're honestly my best friend." After she left, I closed the shop and sat in the dark. That night felt heavier than the others. I realized how deep I was in it, and how little space there was for me to ever be more. A few days later, she called late at night. Her voice was shaking. They'd had a big fight. Not the usual kind. Something broke this time. I told her to stay where she was and drove over without thinking. She stood outside her building, arms crossed, trying to hold herself together. When she saw me, her shoulders dropped. She didn't cry. She just stepped closer. "I don't want to go inside," she said quietly. We walked for a while without talking. The city was almost empty. At one point, she stopped, turned toward me, and took my hand. Just like that. Natural. Instinctive. For a second, neither of us moved. Then she seemed to realize what she was doing. She let go quickly. "Sorry," she said. "I didn't mean to make it weird." "It's okay," I answered, even though it wasn't. We kept walking, but something had shifted. The silence between us felt different. Heavier. Louder. When I dropped her off, she thanked me, hugged me longer than usual, and went inside without looking back. I stood there alone, knowing that whatever that moment meant, it wasn't nothing anymore. And for the first time, being just a friend felt unbearable. My days went back to their usual rhythm, but nothing felt normal anymore. I opened the store, talked to customers, fixed broken screens, smiled when I had to. Inside, I replayed that moment over and over. Her hand in mine, the way she pulled back, the silence that followed. Viola didn't come by for several days. No messages, no calls. I told myself that was good. Space was healthy, necessary. Still, every time the door opened, I looked up expecting to see her. When she finally walked in, she looked tired. Not dramatic, just worn down, like someone who hadn't slept properly in a while. "Hey," she said softly. Hey, I answered, trying to sound normal. She stood near the counter, twisting the strap of her bag. Do you have a minute? I nodded and flipped the sign on the door. We sat in the back, the same place where we'd had dozens of quiet conversations over the years. They're not talking, she said. We haven't talked since that night. I didn't ask who she meant. I knew. She stared at the floor. I keep waiting for him to call. And part of me already knows he won't. I wanted to say something comforting. Something smart. Instead, I stayed quiet. I had learned that silence was sometimes the only honest thing. Over the next week, she started calling again. Short calls at first, then longer ones. She told me about the messages she never sent, the apologies she rehearsed but didn't believe in anymore. I listened, but something had changed. I answered slower. I didn't rush to fix things. One evening, she noticed. Did I do something wrong? She asked. No, I said. I'm just tired. It wasn't a lie. A few days later, she called again. This time, she didn't cry. Her voice was flat. It's over, she said. We actually said it out loud. I waited for relief to rush in. It didn't. What I felt instead was fear. I don't know what I'm supposed to do now, she continued. I feel stupid. Like I wasted so much time. You didn't, I said. You did what you thought was right. She was quiet for a moment. Can I come by? I don't want to be alone. I hesitated. Not long, but enough. Yeah, I said. You can. She arrived an hour later with 2 coffees. We sat upstairs this time, in my small kitchen. She looked around like she was seeing the place for the first time. You really live up here alone, she said. I nodded. Have for a while. She sat across from me, wrapped her hands around the cup, and sighed. I don't know why I stayed so long with someone who made me feel invisible. I didn't answer. I was afraid that if I did, I'd say too much. At some point, she leaned her head back against the wall and closed her eyes. You know what scares me, she said. I'm afraid of changing things, even when they're wrong. That sentence stayed with me. She didn't stay long. When she left, she hugged me and whispered, "Thank you for always being here." After that night, I pulled away more. Not out of anger. Out of self-respect. I answered her messages, but I stopped being available at every moment. I went home earlier. I avoided late-night talks. She noticed again. One afternoon, she walked into the store without saying a word and stood in front of me. Why are you acting like this? Like what? Like I suddenly matter less. I took a deep breath. Because I can't keep pretending nothing affects me. She frowned. I don't understand. I know, I said quietly. We stood there, the noise of the street filling the space between us. For the first time, I saw confusion in her eyes, not comfort. That evening, she texted me. Just one line. Can we talk? Really talk. We met at a small cafe near her salon. No distractions. No excuses. I never wanted to hurt you, she said quickly. If I did, I'm sorry. I know, I replied. But being your friend doesn't mean I don't feel things. She looked at me then. Really looked. Not like a safe place. Like a person. I never allowed myself to think about you that way, she admitted. Because you were always there. And I was afraid of losing that. I was afraid of losing myself, I said. The words hung between us. Honest. Uncomfortable. She nodded slowly. I don't want to lose you, she said. But I don't know what this means yet. Neither do I answered. When we stood up to leave, she reached for my hand. This time, she didn't let go. I don't want to rush, she said. But I don't want to pretend anymore either. I squeezed her hand gently. That's enough for now. As we walked out together, I felt something shift again. Not hope. Not certainty. Something quieter. Something real. After that evening at the cafe, nothing was clearly defined, but nothing was the same either. We didn't suddenly become a couple. We didn't talk every hour. What changed was the space between us. It was no longer empty, but it wasn't filled yet either. Viola stopped talking about her ex completely. No complaints, no comparisons, no updates. At first, that felt like relief. Then it felt strange. For years, her relationship had been a constant presence between us. Now it was gone, and I didn't know where I stood without it. I focused on work. I stayed longer at the store, reorganized shelves that didn't need reorganizing, fixed things twice just to stay busy. I told myself I was doing the right thing by keeping distance. I needed it. She needed it too. She noticed. One afternoon, she came in while I was repairing a laptop. She didn't interrupt. She just stood there, watching me. You're avoiding me, she said calmly. I didn't look up. I'm busy. You're always busy now. I finally met her eyes. I'm trying not to get hurt. The words came out before I could soften them. She didn't react right away. She nodded slowly, like she was absorbing something new. I didn't realize it was like that for you. It has been for a long time, I said. I just never said it out loud. She left without arguing. That night, I wondered if I'd pushed too far. The next few days were quiet. No messages. No calls. I told myself this was what I wanted. Space. Control. Still, every time my phone lit up, I hoped it was her. When she finally called, it was early in the morning. Can we talk? She asked. Not at the store. Somewhere neutral. We met at a park near the river. It was cold, but sunny. People walked past us, living their normal lives while we sat on a bench, unsure where to start. I've been thinking a lot, she said. About us. About me. I waited. I've always gone for men who made me feel like I had to earn their attention, she continued. And you were different. You were safe. So I put you in a box and never looked inside. That box was called Just a Friend, I said. She smiled sadly. Yes. She took a deep breath. When you pulled away, it scared me. Not because I needed you to fix things, but because I realized how much I relied on you being there. That's not the same as choosing me, I said carefully. I know, she replied. And I don't want to pretend it is. For the first time, she wasn't asking for comfort. She was offering honesty. I don't know what this becomes, she said. But I don't want to lose you because I was afraid to change. I looked at her hands. They were shaking slightly. I don't want to be your safe option, I said. I want to be real. Or nothing. She nodded. That's fair. After that conversation, things slowed down even more. No dramatic moments. No sudden decisions. Just time. We started doing ordinary things together. Coffee after work. Short walks. Sitting in silence without the pressure to fill it. Sometimes it felt easy. Sometimes it felt awkward. Both felt honest. I noticed things I hadn't before. The way she listened when I talked about my store. How she remembered small details. How she didn't reach for her phone every 5 minutes anymore. She noticed things too. One evening, she came by while I was closing. You're really good with people, she said, watching me talk to an elderly customer. You're patient. You never make them feel stupid. I shrugged. I know what it's like to feel ignored. That comment stayed between us longer than it should have. A few days later, I had a rough day. A supplier messed up an order, a customer yelled at me, and I felt exhausted. I didn't tell Viola. She showed up anyway, holding 2 takeaway cups. You looked tired yesterday, she said. I thought you might be today too. That simple gesture hit harder than any confession. We sat upstairs, talking about nothing important. At some point, she leaned her head against my shoulder. Not dramatically, not as a test, just naturally. I didn't move away. I've been blind, she said quietly. Not because I didn't care, but because I was afraid of seeing something that could change everything. I swallowed. Change isn't always bad. I'm starting to believe that, she replied. She didn't kiss me. She didn't say she loved me. She just stayed there, close enough to make it clear she was choosing to stay. When she left that night, she took my hand at the door. I don't want to rush, she said again. But I don't want to go backward either. We won't, I answered. As the door closed behind her, I realized something important. For the first time, I wasn't waiting. And she wasn't running. Something settled between us after that evening. Not a label. Not a promise. Just a quiet understanding that whatever this was, it mattered enough to be handled carefully. Viola started coming by the store again, but differently than before. She no longer used it as a place to hide or complain. Sometimes she just stood by the counter, watching me work, asking questions about things she had never cared about before. How did you even start this place? She asked one afternoon. I smiled. A lot of mistakes. A small loan. And too many 12-hour days. She nodded. You never talk about this. No one ever asked, I replied. She began noticing small things. How I remembered customers' names. How I fixed things that weren't profitable just because it felt right. How I stayed calm when things went wrong. One evening, after closing, we walked through the neighborhood together. It wasn't planned. We just ended up going the same direction. You know, she said, I used to think love had to feel intense all the time. Like if it didn't hurt a little, it wasn't real. And now? I asked. Now I'm tired of being tired, she said honestly. We stopped at a small cafe. Nothing special. Cheap chairs. Warm light. We talked about work, money, the future. Real things. Things she never talked about with her ex. I was always adjusting myself to fit into his life, she admitted. I don't feel like I have to do that with you. That's because I already know you, I said. And I don't want you smaller. She looked at me for a long moment. Not searching. Understanding. After that, we started spending time together more naturally. Not planned dates. Just shared moments. Grocery shopping. Fixing a loose shelf in her apartment. Sitting on my couch after long days. Both too tired to pretend to be interesting. One night, while we were watching something neither of us cared about, she turned to me. Why didn't you ever push me? She asked. For what? For more, she said. You could have. I thought about it. Because I wanted you to choose me. Not because you were hurt. Not because you were lonely. She nodded slowly. No one has ever done that for me. That night, when she took my hand again, it felt different. Not uncertain. Not accidental. She didn't pull away this time. I'm scared, she admitted. So am I said. But I want this, she continued. Not as an escape. As a choice. That was the moment something clicked. No rush. No fireworks. Just clarity. We didn't tell anyone right away. We didn't need to. What we had was still fragile, still forming. We moved slowly, learning each other in a new way. There were awkward moments. Old habits. Times when she almost talked about her past relationship out of reflex, then stopped herself. Sorry, she said once. You don't have to apologize, I told her. Just be here. And she was. One afternoon, she came to the store earlier than usual. She looked nervous. What's wrong? I asked. She took a breath. I ran into him today. My stomach tightened. And I didn't feel anything, she said quietly. No anger. No sadness. Just distance. She looked relieved and surprised at the same time. I realized something, she continued. I spent years chasing something unstable because I thought that was passion, and I ignored the one person who showed up every single time. I didn't say anything. I just listened. She reached for my hand across the counter. I was blind, Tom. Not because I didn't see you, but because I didn't want to see what choosing you would mean. And what does it mean? I asked. It means growing up, she said. And I think I'm ready. That evening, she stayed over for the first time. Nothing dramatic. We cooked together, burned the food slightly, laughed about it, fell asleep on opposite sides of the bed, fully dressed, like two people afraid to move too fast. In the morning, she made coffee while I got ready for work. This feels normal, she said. I smiled. That's my favorite kind of feeling. Before leaving, she stopped me at the door. I don't want to be almost anymore, she said. I don't want to go back to pretending. I looked at her, really looked at her. Not as the friend I waited for. Not as the woman coming out of a breakup. But as someone choosing me, clearly. Then don't, I said. Stay. She kissed me then. Soft. Certain. No confusion. When I opened the store that morning, everything felt the same. And completely different. From the outside, nothing dramatic happened after that morning. I opened the store. Viola went to work. Life didn't suddenly turn into something perfect. But from the inside, everything had shifted into place. We didn't announce anything. We didn't post photos. We didn't explain ourselves to anyone. We just started living like two people who had chosen each other. Viola began stopping by the store at random times. Not to complain. Not to escape. Sometimes just to bring me lunch. Sometimes to sit quietly while I worked. You don't mind if I'm just here, right? She asked once. I smiled. I like that you're here. She smiled back, relieved in a way that told me how unfamiliar this kind of calm still felt to her. We learned each other in small, real ways. How she needed silence in the mornings. How I needed structure to feel safe. How both of us carried habits from past relationships that didn't belong here anymore. Sometimes she caught herself apologizing for things that didn't matter. You don't have to earn your place with me. I told her one evening when she said sorry for being tired. She looked at me for a long moment. That's still new to me. We didn't avoid difficulties. We faced them early. When she had a bad day and wanted to pull away, I let her, but I stayed close enough for her to know she wasn't alone. When I got overwhelmed with work and shut down, she didn't take it personally. She asked questions instead. One night, after the store closed late, I found her sitting on the stairs outside, waiting. I didn't want to interrupt, she said. I just wanted to see you. That simple sentence said everything. A few weeks later, she invited me to her salon after hours. The lights were low, the mirrors empty. This place saw all my worst days, she said, and my best ones. I wanted you to see it. I watched her move through the space with confidence, with ownership. It struck me how little her ex had ever been part of her real life. How much of herself she had kept separate. Later that evening, sitting on her couch, she finally said it out loud. I was blind for years, she said. Not because I didn't see you, but because seeing you meant admitting I had chosen wrong before. That doesn't make you weak, I replied. It makes you honest now. She nodded, eyes full. You were there through all of it. And I never once asked what it cost you. It cost me time, I said. But I don't regret it. Because I didn't lose myself waiting. I just didn't move forward. She took my hands. I'm here now. And I'm not confused anymore. That was the first time she said it with certainty. We started building something real. Planning small things. A weekend away. A shared drawer. Merging routines instead of escaping them. There were no grand promises. Just consistency. One evening, while cooking together, she burned the food again and laughed. I used to think love had to feel dramatic, she said. Now I think it just has to feel safe. It still takes work, I replied. I know, she said. But this time, I want to do the work with you. Months passed. The seasons changed. The store grew busier. The salon expanded. We showed up for each other in ways that weren't visible to anyone else. One afternoon, an old customer asked me if I was married. No, I said. But I'm not alone. That felt like the truth. Viola stopped calling me her best friend. She started calling me her partner. Without hesitation. Without jokes. One night, lying in bed, she turned to me. I need to say something clearly, she said. So I don't ever forget it. I waited. You weren't a backup. You weren't a moment. You were the person I should have seen all along. And I choose you. Not because my past ended, but because my future makes sense with you. I felt something settle in my chest that had been restless for years. I choose you too, I said. Every day, even when it's ordinary. Especially then. This wasn't a story about stealing a moment or taking advantage of timing. It was a story about two people finally being honest at the same time. She didn't lose someone and fall into my arms. She let go of what didn't work and walked toward what did. And I didn't wait anymore. I stepped forward. We built a relationship that didn't need excuses or explanations. One that stood on trust, patience, and real effort. She stopped seeing me as just a friend. I stopped waiting to be chosen. And that's how our story ended. Together.